most likely due to disorientation, okay? Plus loss of altitude in high angle of bank manoeuvres. Someone enters into a steep turn, doesn't maintain their altitude, and ends up spiralling down towards the ground. Okay? The symptoms of a spiral dive, or some things we might notice if we enter into a spiral dive, are as follows, okay? First symptom is that we've got a low nose attitude. Now if we're in the turn and our nose starts to drop down, that's the first symptom of being in a spiral dive. Doesn't necessarily mean we are in a spiral dive alone, but it could lead us to believe we might be. Next is a high and increasing indicated airspeed, okay? So nose is down, speed is coming up quite quickly, we're starting to notice we might be in a spiral dive. Now if the airspeed increases, Michaela, what do you think might happen to the noise level if we speed up?
It would also increase?
Yeah, so that's something you could be aware of as well. The noise level is starting to increase from the wind going past us, and also the RPM of the engine will be starting to speed up. As we speed up, the RPM starts to speed up. So loud wind as well, also engine noise starting to increase there as well. A couple of other symptoms is that we'll also most likely have a high angle of bank because we're in the spiral. And then what do you think our descent would be like? Do you think we'd be descending quite quickly, Tony? Yeah. So we have a high range of descent as well. So these are all things you might start to notice if you're in a spiral dive. Makes enough sense? Now, with all that in mind, let's now have a look at the air exercise, or how we're actually going to conduct this steep turn, okay? So we'll be going through how we're going to enter into the steep turn, what we're going to do in the steep turn, and then how we exit out of the steep turn again. So in terms of pre-entry checks, we have some pretty standard pre-entry checks for a steep turn, kind of like a medium level turn, except we've expanded on some points here. So let's say we've got an airplane flying here in straight level flight. If we want to enter into a steep turn, this is the pre-entry checks. First, trim for straight level. So we want to have the airplane all trimmed out so we don't need to have any control input to keep it flying. Next, we want to select a reference point, for example, a mountain on the horizon as a reference point. A heading, for example, heading 270 set. Altitude, for example, 2,500 feet. After that, we want a speed check above 95 knots. So we have to make sure we're above 95. Now this is an important point. Make sure you remember it. And after this, we want to look out. Okay? Now when we enter into a medium level turn, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the lookout. In, for example, that if we're going left, we tip the right wing up, clear right, centre, tip the left wing up, clear left to make sure there's no traffic. This one's going to be a little bit different, okay? If we're going left in this example, we'll look behind us to the right, lift the right wing, clear right, centre, clear under the left wing, and then clear behind to the left. Now this is because we're going to be turning quite quickly, so we want to make sure there's no traffic in our area at all. After this, we're going to enter into the turn, banking. For example, if we're going to the left, we're going to bank to the left, increase balance to the left, increase our back pressure. However, when we pass 30 degrees angle of bank, we're also going to increase the power until the noise level is heard, so around 100 to 200 RPM. So we want to increase it to around 2,500 RPM or so. Okay? That should be just an audible increase in noise, should be about 2,500 RPM. So in terms of the actual entry, for example, if we're going to the left like this in a 45-degree angle of bank turn, we want to bank to the left, remember, increase our power passing 30 degrees angle of bank, balance with a small bit of left rudder entering the turn so we stay in balance, and then after that we want to increase our back pressure to maintain our altitude, okay? Bank, balance, back pressure, and we want to set an attitude something like this, okay? Now, Tim, if you just look at this, can you think of a good way to remember what this attitude is, or where the horizon's cutting the glare shield? How would you remember this?
Well, it's a 45 degrees, so that means it's equally. It would split a square from one corner to the diagonal corner.
That's good. In terms of actually remembering where the altitude is here, I'd remember probably the horizon is cutting on the corner of the PFD, this screen here. That's a good way to remember it in the left-hand turn. Okay? Now when we're in the turn, we're going to be using our A-lap work cycle, as we always do during manoeuvres. So the first one is attitude, so checking our attitude. Horizon is cutting the correct place in the glare shield. Looking out into the turn, so leaning forward and looking up to clear all the traffic in the turn. Checking our attitude again, making sure it hasn't lowered down, making sure that when we lean forward it didn't come down. and then checking our performance. Now in terms of a steep level turn, the performance things we're checking is firstly that we have balance, so that we're in balance, the balance tab is correct. We're at 45 degrees angle of bank as indicated here on the PFD, and we maintain our height with our altimeter. Okay? Now this is all well and good. Next we'll go through some troubleshooting to do with this. Then we want to start when we want to start exiting the turn, we're going to be seeing our reference feature coming into our 11 o'clock, and we're going to start exiting the turn. In terms of exiting, banking to the right. Banking to the right. As we pass 30 degrees angle of bank, we're going to reduce the power, balancing with right rudder, and then decreasing our back pressure, making sure that we again set straight and level attitude. Okay. Now that's fairly simple in terms of manoeuvre. Now let's have a look at maybe a turn to the right, for example, and we're going to talk about some troubleshooting. Now a turn to the right is the exact same, except that when we turn to the right, we might need a little bit more right rudder because we have an increase in power. So in terms of the pre-entry check, it's all the same. Entering is all the same. Bank, balance, back pressure. A-lap is all the same. And when we exit, the same thing. Except this time we're looking for a reference feature to come through at 1 o'clock before we start rolling out the turn. So this is the attitude for a 45-degree angle of bank turn to the right. Okay. Now let's talk about a couple of things that we could do in terms of troubleshooting. All right. Let's say we go through A-lap.